The most used mode on TrackMan Performance Studio is the shot analysis. This is the most popular mode that we also use in our coaching sessions. It's located under the Practice tab, and we'll click it here to launch. It's popular for its breadth of data, its accuracy, and the fact that you can save this data to your TrackMan account for later examination. Now, before using shot analysis, we'll want to log in with our profile. The best way to do this is to log in with your TrackMan account. You can set one up or use your pre-existing one by downloading the TrackMan app to your phone and scanning this QR code with your phone. This will automatically log you in and save all your data from the session so you can view it later. If you have no interest in saving your data, perhaps you're just warming up before a virtual round, or you don't quite need to save the numbers, you can always just log in with a guest account. Just simply hit guest player and you can type in your name or anything really, and you can go from there. There is a database with all SwingWorks clients, but that will not be available on the Practice Hub. So I'm putting mine in here for example. Now there are 3 other tabs up here: club, the tags, and then the ball. The ball we can ignore. It already has the proper settings. You wouldn't want to change that. The club, we will want to designate which club we are using. The ball flight will be read correctly by the launch monitor regardless of which club you have selected. So if you accidentally switch to driver while you're still hitting a 5-iron, the data for the ball flight is still the same. Just realize that the data will now be combined. It won't be separated. So if you do go back and look at your data from the session, it's just going to be mixed up and you won't quite know what you did with which club. And then the tags is simply for separating the data even on the same club. So for instance, if we're hitting this 5-iron and we want to make it a little adjustment, but we want to see what change that that has on the ball flight, we can simply create a tag so we can look at the differences between the original form and then what we're changing with the swing. And so to start this session, we'll simply click on one of the clubs and click on done. And now we're at the range and we are ready to hit. Now this is not a lesson on the literacy of metrics. This is just purely for navigation. So this is the first look at the range. To view the numbers, there will be a preset data here below. If you don't want to look at those while you're hitting, if you would like to have a greater view of the range, you can simply hit the button below here that says data and it will hide all of it. You can keep a running shot list on the left here. It typically has one metric to the shot that is available, and you can also toggle through the different groupings of shots. So if you've hit a wedge and then an iron and then a driver, you can go back and forth between the groups of shots if you'd like there. But most of you will want to keep the data on the bottom. Now, if there are different metrics you want to look at, this is entirely customizable. You can simply go to the button on the right here with all the sliders, click on that, and you'll see the data that has been chosen to appear in that table. And so if it's highlighted, it is showing up. If not, and you would like to see it, you can simply click on it, and now it'll appear in the data set. If you want to remove something, you would simply unhighlight it. And then after choosing your chosen numbers, you can go with however many or however few you would like. You can simply X out of that, and again, it'll be at the bottom. These are my favorites. There are quite a few of them. You don't need to have all of them. And again, you can always hide those and simply view the data in another way. One of the popular choices is that we have a second screen on the right, so you can still hit balls on the range and you can get more detailed insight into the shots, into the swings here. And there are several different modes to choose from. You would just hit the button with all the squares on it. So again, the way I got to that was I went over to this top right corner, I hit this button with all the arrows on it. That shrinks this screen down and opens up this one. If you ever wanted to get rid of one of these, you would click on that arrow button again. Now, there are several different options as to what the other windows are. There are some that are more useful, more popular, and some that won't add much insight overall, or maybe even slightly redundant. Some of the more popular ones, dispersion. This will give you a view of the lateral deviations of your shots. It has a aerial view of this virtual range you're hitting to. And so after hitting several shots, you can see a pattern to your dispersions, if any. And so this is a popular one to view. The side top view is a bit redundant because you also get that view of the lateral deviation, and then just a brief insight into the trajectory, the height of your shots. That's used occasionally. On the TrackMan IO, it will not have video. What it will have is club delivery. That is an aerial view, a video recording of the club head coming in to make contact with the golf ball. That's one many of you will probably be interested in. If you do not want the numbers on the bottom, there is an option to have the data on the right side of the screen, but a bit redundant to have both of these present. Another popular one is the table. This is where all the data is presented in Excel format, essentially. You can scroll through all the shots and at the bottom see their averages and their standard deviations. This is one that we use to look at certain patterns and how metrics relate to one another. So a very popular one that we can always look at to sum up the performance. Another often used one is the impact screen. This is showing us the directional club metrics as well as launch club metrics by looking at things like club path, face to path, attack angle, dynamic loft, launch angle, spin loft, so on and so forth. And this will give us a sense of contact location too. You can see the blue line running straight through the middle of the club head here. If you hit it off the toe, that blue line will go through the toe. If you hit it off the heel, that blue line will go through the heel. So it, to a degree, does show you the impact location on this window as well. Swing plane is a little more detailed, but does provide some very valuable insight on a couple metrics like low point distance and where that is in the swing. Not as used as this one though. This is the most popular, impact location. This just tells us where exactly that ball is hitting on the club face. And so we can not just look at individual shots, but if you highlight, say, a group of shots in this shot list over here, let's say you choose all the shots that you've hit with your 5-iron, it'll show you that heat map that we've used in coaching sessions to reveal the pattern of where contact is, if there is one. And so those will be the two main points of navigation. The items on the bottom we can largely ignore. Same thing for these ones at the top. This mostly has to do with just the settings of the launch monitor, so I wouldn't mess with that. These ones at the bottom is just for more detailed analysis. And these buttons at the top here on the left, these are more for the aesthetic, the presentation of this range. This button on the left, for instance, this has to do with the grid. So you can see how there's different lines showing up on the range. There's several different versions and partially dependent on which driving range you choose. So you can cycle through those. If you do want to look at a different driving range, there's several options, some fictitious, some real. Some of them are an actual hole. This is the local kingdom at TaylorMade Golf. There's holes you can choose, like hole number 3 at PGA National. This is great for driver practice as it gives you a very challenging fairway to hit. And then there's some that are just more open and generous and aesthetically pleasing. And again, you can go through different grid options here. I only prefer a straight line down the middle. I think too many lines actually obstructs the nice visual of the driving range. This button with the camera, personally, I find this kind of useless. It's just another way to look at the shots taking off from the driving range. That's the only other option on this camera angle. And so from time to time, I'll change the view of the driving range. There's, again, several options to choose from, both real, both fake, and a couple even are local, like the TPI and Oceanside. And so feel free to choose whichever one. It's never permanent. Now, if you ever want to change your clubs, you can simply click on the icon here. That'll take you back to that club selection screen. If you wanted to add another person to this range session, you may do so by also going back. You can just click on your name. It'll just have another option for adding a player, and you can do that. And you can toggle between the players, and so you can both enjoy a range session together. The majority of the time, what we do is I just keep the range up. I have the relevant metrics on the bottom. But again, if you just want to enjoy the visuals, you can always hide those. And should you be done with the session, there is a button at the top left with a house. It says exit. Clicking on that will take you back to the main menu.